Let me turn this down. Nice even fade there. All right. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Dustin Kleeman, and I am with Momentum. I'm sure you're familiar with it. Thank you for everyone who's joining us on our different feeds. We've got it everywhere. That includes all of our friends and family over at the PTN side that we are here joining us tonight. A very special evening from our Momentum Creative Division. As you can see on our website, this is the beautiful website that we have. You can check out anytime, momentumcreative.org. You can go there and see what's happening with the amazing work that's being done by artists that we help support. And boy, I mean, some of the artwork that we're going to be seeing tonight is very fantastic. It's part of the new exhibit, No Shadow Kick. And I hope that if you haven't checked it out, you'll stick around and we'll get to discuss it. And again, show some amazing images that have been really put together by fantastic artists. So we'll get to all of that in a second. We're going to give you a virtual tour, behind the scenes look of the work on display, what that means, how it was created, the artists behind it. But first, we'd like to introduce ourselves. Joining me for the evening is Aranya Kerr, an artist in his own right, also Momentum's curatorial and adaptive designs manager. And you curated this exhibit. You want to say a few words before, of course, we introduce Stephanie.
Yeah, my name is Aranya Kerr, and yes, I did curate this show called No Shadow Kick. And I think the correlation is martial art is really about mastering like a technique and a style. So I wanted to kind of incorporate our artists to kind of master their style and kind of showcase some of the things that they've been doing. So thank you guys for joining us.
Of course. And yeah, Stephanie, I want to give you a little bit of intro too. You've poured years of hard work and helped cultivate the success of the Momentum Creative Division. Stephanie Anderson joining us. She's the Senior Director of Operations and Innovation here at Momentum. And Stephanie, I know you have a few words, and you're always good about putting in perspective the emotional side of it and what this really means in the greater scheme of things.
Well, that's a tall order, but I'll do my best now and maybe throughout the conversation. We want to thank everybody for joining us tonight and call out how incredibly important it is to continue to have events like this that bring us together to celebrate the artwork that's being made. It's being made in different ways than maybe it ever was before. We miss being together in studio spaces as a larger community, but the flip side of that is so many of the artists that we work with have been setting up their own home studios and really building their practice out 24/7 within their lives. And this exhibition is a testimony to that. We've got some artists who've been working with us for many years and some who have been involved in our services in other ways, but have really been discovering and cultivating their artwork in more recent years. So it's a really lovely look into the spectrum of artwork that is being made throughout our communities. And another installment, regardless of COVID circumstances, both in person on the ground in the windows of our Washington Reed Gallery, our Momentum Creative Gallery now over in Culver City, and soon to be another installment over in Santa Monica that we'll talk more about, I'm sure, later on this evening. So thank you. Thank you for all of the support and for the inspiration.
Yeah, and it goes back to, again, the support that we receive here at Momentum, the community that supports us and supports the artists, more importantly. We're very grateful to have you all. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you for Aranya. This was your debut, Aranya, and I wanted to ask you just about, as we take the virtual tour, I did promise that, and as we talk about that, kind of, you put these up, and so you really got to spend time not only with the artists, but the pieces of when they're in their physical form. That's the one thing that you and I have continued to talk about was virtually, yes, they're very beautiful, don't get me wrong, but seeing art in person, boy, that's something that the pandemic really has put into perspective. And we've discussed about it before with our blank canvas, just how important it is to have art be available visually for us in person. Could you talk about kind of what this was for you and what that meant?
Well, I think it's just I think for me is showing where the work can be outside, there's a working process, which is in the studio, where the artist is kind of working. But I think the final say is how it is being presented on a wall and how it like looks. And so I really wanted to showcase how you take an artist, you know, working in the studio to like now showcasing that artist into a gallery setting and how powerful that like really looks, you know. So that's why, you know, I felt like it needed like to be shown like in like frames, and it needed to be shown in groupings. So
And when you're doing that too, I mean, every single piece has its own size too. That's the thing that we finally get to see too. When you open up the catalog, you can take a look how each one expands but each one here now gives you a better perspective of the actual dimensions of the artwork. Some have that wide, you know, real full vision, and then some where you really have to get close. And when I was shooting this on just, you know, a nice little gimbal, you can see my reflection in there. I wish I could edit that out. But but you can tell that it makes you stop and kind of, I want to get a little bit closer, especially the ones like this where you don't have that glass in front of it and you can really start to see the visuals to it. Talk about just the artists themselves who are here at Momentum Creative and all the different ways that they use the art space, and obviously the way that they create their artwork. Is this one, I believe this is 5 pieces.
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
Silva. Is that to me is just, it's a remarkable. So talk a little about like all the different mediums that they've used in this.
Well, I think all of them use like, you know, obviously acrylic, Sharpie, and Prismasticks. But you know, to go back to what you were saying, how you know, when it's presented live, you can actually really see the fine details, see like the little strokes, see like the beautiful layings of colors, and you know, like things that you can't really see like from a screen, but you can really experience. And so, you know, as you can see, like all these artists have their own like different experience, and once you're in there, you can sense like, wow, this is artist in its like, you know, I would say like Silva for one would be like that artist that like really took the time during this pandemic and kind of discovering her like style, you know, where she was focused in her own element in her backyard making art, you know. And what we did was we just kind of gave her all the tools that she needed to produce art, you know, to make art. And then we just gave her the time, you know, and then she came back with these amazing, like beautiful pieces, you know, that are like layered and layered of colors. So
I know it's remarkable. And even to see it in the physical space, I can't wait for when we get to return.
right.
I know that is going to be a monumental moment for everyone involved. You know, Stephanie, since you've been around and have seen so many different ways of how these types of artwork, I mean, we've had a number of different styles. You know, blank canvas is wildly different than this one. So could you talk about kind of what your view on this space was, and kind of what you thought of it when you saw it up?
Well, I think that for one thing, I know that this was a labor of love and a concept that Aranya had been developing for some time, and having conversation with some of the artists that he had in mind, particularly looking at some very diverse and most often in many of these works, more abstract layering of color and lines and marks. But also the practice, the way that people came to making this artwork was consistent, or was rather something that the artists had in common, utilizing adaptive tools that they worked with Aranya to design, and that Aranya and our team were able to fabricate with the use of our 3D printers. And in most cases, if not all, I believe all, correct me if I'm wrong, Aranya, this was artists who are utilizing their foot to be able to control the application of their mediums, whether that's paint or whether that's paint and then Sharpie and then Prismastic. But as Aranya was saying, many, many layers, a whole lot of texture, a lot of patience to make just, you know, thousands and thousands of lines that bring this visual feel together. It's stunning, obviously, all together. And there is, as you said, just so much to look at that it online, but especially in person, you could get lost for hours looking at each of these pieces. The fact that it is a group of artists whose practice has some commonalities, as well as the fact that there's the marks, the more abstracted layers of marks that are very graphic and very exciting. I think it's a show that is just abounding with color, but also inviting people to kind of come in and see what they see in the larger field of color. And that's a really exciting kind of invitation into the art world. And it's, I think, consistent throughout the tour that folks will see of artwork. As you were saying, with some of our other shows, particularly Blank Canvas, there's such a variety of different kinds of artwork that are coming in different styles that it can be a lot to process. But this is kind of meditative if you start moving from one to another and really kind of dig into those layers. So I think it's going to be a highly emotional show for folks, but also a very peaceful and maybe soothing show too. So.
That's what I also wanted to bring up, was just what you can do with audio. And I wish that, again, we could have where you curate a playlist, and Ronnie, you and I have shared music too over kind of what fits this type of, and we're both big martial artist fan, and we love it. I grew up with Jackie Chan, and so to see this type of stuff when you're talking about the adaptive tools and kind of that again, the no kick shadow, when it actually is like, oh, that's what that means. It makes sense. I'm getting it now. I do hope that one day we can bring forth like a audio for everyone to kind of walk through galleries and kind of have that specific experience, Stephanie, that you're talking about, whether it's, it's emotional or calming and soothing, or a little bit of mix of both, or even excitement too.
To that end, I was going to say, we were hopeful, that if the pandemic had lessened and we had been able to be together, that there could be some workshops that would really mix the fine art and the graphic and the martial arts, because these artists making work with their feet, I mean, talk about a magical, very mystical form of art and movement.
Right. Yeah. Before I continue, I do want to again go over the artists. Everybody can take a look at, again, the space that we have. This video is online. It's available directly on our website. You can go to that page itself and you can just find on the No Shadow Kick art exhibit, click on it, you go to it, you scroll down a little bit, and you can see, right in there, the gallery itself, the walkthrough. And it's a lot less choppy. It's very smooth because, of course, the internet in 2021, we're still working it out. 2022, 60 frames a second, that'll be fine. But you just got to be a little bit more patient. And so we encourage everyone to go check that out. In the meantime, something that everybody gets to see tonight, which is not on the website, hopefully we can actually put it on the website too, and we'll get to share it here in a second, but it's actually the artists working. And we wanted to share that tonight to give a better perspective of the art that you see and how it was made. That's always the kind of fun part that a lot of artists, I don't really want to talk about how I do it, or they're very kind about it, like, oh, it didn't take that long, or oh boy, I mean, it had a whole process. And now this is what we're talking about when we get to see behind the curtain of especially the adaptive tools that are going. This is Brittany Joyner. She has an adaptive tool, and Rania, you take it away as we show this video. We're going to have a number of artists that show up. Talk a little bit about your history with these adaptive tools and kind of how they came to fruition, how long they've been around, and kind of where we are as Momentum putting these together and giving that ability for creative freedom.
Yeah, I mean, I think the adaptive tool's been around since like 2014 or ever since I started, so about 7 years ago. And from a DIY perspective to now, like having a 3D machine to be able to like kind of produce multiple tools at once. And the technology has kind of grown with it along with the artists. And it's like, I feel like as far as the adaptive tool, all of our guys will somehow need some kind of adaptability because like the world is not made, like the environment is not kind of made for them. So it's up to me to kind of think and kind of play with some ideas along with the artists and the staff that I work with to kind of develop some of these things. But as far as like, what I love most is seeing like studio practice and how the artists are able to make art, like in their own unique way. Because like, my belief is like, uh, uh, art is innate in everyone, like we all have that ability. It's just like for a lot of our guys, they just need some adaptability. So like a foot tool, for Renzo, it's like, wow, he can move. And then we added another hand tool for him so he could like move both ways, so he's making two art at once,
I was
two
going to say
pieces.
he's a cook in the kitchen with this. I mean, he's
Yeah.
really starting to
He's
cook
one of
some
the
things
most
up.
productive artists.
Yeah, and he's like that one student where you like want to be extra hard on him because like he can produce those things like really
Right.
well. So it's like it's like the challenge is to see how far they could take it, And then this is one of our artists, Alyssa, who's not at the program, but working with her was like really amazing, with someone who didn't really know what to do to like figuring out, hey, I want to paint this, I want to do that, so her choice of like saying what she wants to say like visually to the world was like, I don't know, like she was able to kind of produce. So this far she was making a dolphin and she always wanted to paint a dolphin. And so we kind of figure out a way for her to like reach that, so she was able to kind of make, dip the paint, and actually apply the paint onto her working surface. So those are something like the challenges are not like, those are the fun parts that I love about like seeing the artists in the studio. It's like making things for them and developing like new like studio practices. So.
What is that feeling like too, when you can take what their vision is and really give them that power? What is that connection like when both of you get to say, yes, this is what I was hoping for.
Right.
And you kind of can make this lightning in a bottle.
Right.
What's that feeling like for you and for them?
I think for me, it's just like, I don't know. It's just, like a proud moment, where like I could sense it in my father, where he's like, wow, my son has achieved certain heights, and not that I'm the father or the mother, but it's like, I can sense like, oh, they finally are able to produce work that are like not marketable, but valued, like someone can put it in a frame and put it on the wall, so like to me, it's like, and then also, I think there's something about art where it's like, like 80% of the people that we do service, someone is always like in, there's always like someone that helps assist, with things. And somehow like with art, like I want to take that away where like, it's not about assistance, it's about like time, like however long you spend time making your work or, and you should be in your own creative space, because when I'm making art, I don't want anyone around. I want just me and my thoughts.
Sure. And to go back a little bit, when you were talking about that feeling of pride, that proud connection that you make, it's kind of like the master and the student, like there's a little bit of that Zen, the martial arts, if you will, type of feeling that I think you were definitely touching on. And real quick, I do want to mention Song. So a couple of things. Song is the main image of No Shadow Kick. He has several images that you can check out. He is fantastic. We had a discussion with him, Rania, just a few weeks ago, and about his likes and process. I love watching him. I love watching all of them work, but Song, there's something about Song's like process and like the before, the after, the during. There is something that it's incredible to me, his focus on and the way that he can bring out beauty from that creativity. So if you could talk a little bit about him, and I mean, obviously as the cover artist, I think he does get a little bit of praise here too. So touch on kind of how you guys have worked together. And
I mean, I think Song is definitely one of the first artists that I worked with as far as developing the artist and the adaptive foot tool. He was very like, sure, you want me to try it, sure. So he was like, that one student that was like, I'll try anything, but then you realize like just giving him that tool, it's not even, him trying, it's seeing how like that shows like his possibilities come alive, you know, like before it's like we kind of like uh, put a piece of tape onto his shoe, you know, so it's like it doesn't look very dignified in a sense where it's like if I was an artist, I wouldn't want that. I would want something to kind of develop that. And so, you know, he was really like one of like I would say one of the first collaborators along with the Foot Tool. Like I think he was like, you know, and to see him go from where he was to where he is now, super independent. He don't even need me anymore. He's his own master, you know, like I'll check in with him once in a while and just like, hey, Song, what are you doing? And then he'll show me like 10 pieces of new pieces that he made, you know, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, and that's like my hope for everyone is like they're able to make art without me, you know, where I can
Sure.
just kind of check in, where they're a master of their own like creativity.
I do want to point out too, again, I will really harp on the incredible nature of the adaptive tools. And I wish I could zoom this in a little bit, but on the bottom of the screen, you can see how the Foot Tool and from where it's come from. When Ronnie, you and I talked about this and we were kind of, just discussing where the tools have come from and how they were very much DIY MacGyver style. Like, how does it work? You're running to Home Depot and grabbing those pieces and really trying to make it work. And you're right when you touch on the fact of like, as an artist, anything to get the job done, but also at the same time, as someone, everybody deserves dignity. Everybody deserves inclusion and respect. And to have these type of tools now that are strapped in, they actually are of quality of nature too.
Mm-hmm.
These things, yeah, they'll break down, but they're going to last. And they actually
Mm-hmm.
have like, is there any sort of, because I know artists do, I'm not an artist myself, but I have artists around me and I'm always amazed by them. But even like there are some artists that have a love for a certain type of paintbrush. Like this is my paintbrush. There's something
Mm-hmm.
magical about this one. Is
Mm-hmm.
there that connection too, even with the adaptive tools on how
Well,
they view?
it's funny that you say that because again, we'll go back to Song, as far as like giving him the tool. At first I gave him a Foot Tool and then he was like, he saw Black Panther and he's like, can we make a Black Panther Foot Tool? And I was like,
Yes.
oh my God, you just raised it up another. Yeah, so that's a Black Panther Foot Tool that he's
Oh,
using.
that is. Okay, so let me go back just a little bit. I do want to rewind so people can see that again. And this is Paul too. You can see Paul's work there. So
Mhm.
that is actually what I'm looking at here. That silver tip is what's designed to give that Black Panther look to
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Ah, got
Yeah.
it. That's
And
cool.
he had every input into it, so it was like, through and through. So that's how far it has developed. It's not just like, hey, here's a color, here's pink. It's more like, can I do this? Can I add, whatever? Can I change my Foot Tool into a Black Panther? And I feel like that just gave him even more power,
For
like
sure.
power to like produce his work. And he's like Song and I, we're a lot alike. So he loves like comic books, he loves martial arts. So it's like, oh, you want to be Black Panther? Let me give you the suit, and then
Yeah,
he's like, I feel like I'm Black Panther right now. So
that is really
And,
cool. Go ahead,
and
Stephanie.
I was just going to say, Song and so many of the artists have had vision to want to be able to create, and having been able to collaborate with the Rania and move past the very old DIY designs of everything with duct tape,
mhm.
paintbrushes to hats, duct tape, paintbrushes to anything. But of course, that was very limiting because of, well, obviously it wasn't as dignified, just as you were saying, and there's not that connection to the object that is very crucial, I think, to artists. But also just the notion of it limited the ability to change things out, to use a different color, to use a different medium, and to very quickly, as well as more independently, be able to make those choices and really honor the vision of the individual rather than just sort of what was convenient or available. Song and so many of the artists that we've been able to work with over the years have continued to drive the effort to make the studio spaces available, to build curriculum, to create classes, as well as to work as mentors themselves for other artists and for art students in gosh, at Otis and at Art Center and so many other places. Song knew what he wanted to do. He just needed to be able to collaborate with people, to be able to get to the tools and some environmental designs that would enable him. And as Rania said, his vision forward is complete independence. And that's as a visual artist, a painter, a photographer, and whatever else he's going to cook up over time, because he's always thinking about the next discipline that he's going to master. So I just wanted to call that out, that where we are today is driven by these artists. And there may have been times before where they didn't consider themselves artists, or they didn't have access to tools or to some instruction or mentorship or just collaboration. But it's very evident that that's within them, just as Aranya said earlier. And it's just about being able to, in a very natural and respectful sense, support that to come further and be there to empower it, but not to guide it or direct it.
Yeah, and I would say like Silva is like kind of like the new, like, of that concept, where she was like, I don't know if I'm an artist or not. And we had like multiple conversations about it. And then, as the pandemic hit, you like, once she came back, she was like full of energy and full of like life and full of like, I am an artist. This is what I can do. I can make big paintings. I can make, so it's like, all she needed was that tool to kind of explore her creative side, and also the confidence of someone saying, you are an artist. You just need time, time to develop your style. So
yeah. And in the
really
last
cool.
year and a half, we've had nothing but time. So that's really
Right,
a great way to see
right.
that be cultivated and really blossom out. I do want to point out a couple of things too. When we're talking about adaptive tools, and for those who are joining us who use Momentum PTN services, we're really working forward on 3D adaptive tools and even items for children and for the needs that they need and might find help on. That parents can rest assured that is what we're taking, what we've learned here, and we're bringing it down to Torrance and into Long Beach in the South Bay. And that's very exciting that you guys have kind of had that 6-7 year window to really develop from the 3D printers. We've got more of them now. We've got more material. And now you can really start to drill down. How exciting is that, Rania? We were down there a few weeks ago, and you were working on some insoles that have some tactile feeling for those children who may not have, who have sensory issues. How cool is that we get to finally kind of see those things start to come out?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's the adaptive tool is like kind of one thing, but I think it's all like all around, it's adaptability, like whether it's environment, whether it's shoe, whether it's this, it's taking like someone's physicality and kind of seeing the overall, like what's possible for them, and to know like now we can like make stuff for like kids, Right. And so now we have like a full spectrum of like adaptability. I think to me, like, that's like, that's kind of my ultimate goal, is to be able to adapt to from young to old. And to, what's cool about working with PTN, I think it's like, I've never really had the resource of like OTs and PTs, and their expertise and how they kind of think. Cause like what I love about like making things, it's the conversations in between, whether it's a conversation with the artist, whether it's a conversation with the OTs, it's like, that is like that's the marrow, I say, and then, then you make the work, and then you see the aha moment, and then they get all excited, and then the kids use it, and then the adults use it, and it works. And it's like, that's like, to me, like, that's, that's where like I'm fulfilled with like my job, with my purpose.
And that's so cool that we get to now bring those forward. And these are the shoes that we get to see the artists actually use those too. And previously, when we were talking about, those are the insoles, and you can see those little rivets, and really working with doctors to figure out, okay, which parts of the foot can you really instead of just lines, you can actually start to design them specifically for individuals, for specific children and their specific needs. And that's a cool aspect as well.
there's like a one cool success story. I was working with one of the OTs. I heard Rebecca was her name, and she came up with this concept. And she was like, "Well, I have this kid who like likes to take off his shoe all the time, and like we don't know how to kind of help him because it's like the only reason he takes off his shoe is because he wants to feel like something concrete, something tangible on his soul, So it's like, and so she came up with this concept, and then she like used it one day, and she said it was successful. Like he didn't take off his shoe the whole day, And to me, like that's like wow, like there's that's just like a little part of what we're doing. Hopefully, it's
Yeah.
over
Right,
time we can produce more.
to solve that challenge and get his focus in another direction for the therapeutic session is just incredible. So,
It's amazing the work being done here at Momentum, everyone. I know the people tuning in already know that, but just continue to sing the praises. I do want to transition a couple more questions before we leave, but before we go, I do want to point out in the artists that we have, you can go read about. I very encourage everyone to go check out the About the Artist page, and you can read about every single artist who was on display. We have a lot more artists too, actually under the Momentum Creative umbrella, and on the roster, if you would. I feel like we're kind of like this big team, so it's great to kind of say like they, but I would like to point out, please go read About the Artists. With that being said, there are two individuals who are part of this, who unfortunately have passed away in the last year, and we want to honor them. That's Denise Cerez, as well as Linda Sparkman. Both of their art is on display, and we encourage you to check them out. Go visit the art and the legacy that they have, and their creativity that they have left as a thumbprint on this world. They've done so much, and I would love to have you, Aranya and Stephanie, say a few words about them as well.
Sure. I mean, I definitely wanted to include them in the show, knowing that they passed away. But I think the beauty about art is like this is the artist's legacy, and what they leave behind is these beautiful marks, And so I wanted to honor that. I want to honor like what they've done, what they were doing. And Linda, I didn't really know her. I knew her through Zoom. But look at all the work that she's produced. We created a foot tool together, through Zoom, along with the help with one of the staff sending me videos and stuff like saying, oh, this doesn't work, this might work. And so it was like it's like I got to know her, but I also got to see what she left behind also. So I definitely wanted to honor her legacy.
And that you did. And again, people can go check that out. I would love to pull up the specific ones too that they have, and if I can get to it here, I believe we have them in alphabetical order, but I'll have to check. Here's Linda Sparkman's work, and just you can see that the visual, and it goes back to Stephanie, what we talked about, where you even said you can get lost in those spaces and really find yourself taking time to look at every single one. And I really do enjoy that part of this exhibit, and I think it's something that really shines through, that people can take time and go enjoy.
Absolutely. Well, and you'll see sparks on there because that's what we'd call Linda. She was just a spark of energy at every point. And she's somebody who made artwork over many, many years, but working in some other areas with us at Momentum, and during the course of the pandemic, where we had to pause certain things, we identified, well, now we have more time to be able to reach out to other people who maybe aren't in our studios or our programs, but who are connected within our community of services and who would benefit from a tool, whether they want to use that tool to make visual or fine art or visual art, or whether they want to use it for, some other purpose in their life. And so the fact that then Linda got to engage with the support of some trusted staff and with Aranya, over Zoom to talk about and figure out how to fit the right tool for her. And then that took her art to another level, later in her life is tremendous. It's also something that I know that she would appreciate us reminding everybody of, which is that it's never too late to start trying to do something new or to take another approach. She's somebody who embodied that spirit. And I think her work is definitely demonstrative of that. So
just to know for people too, they can purchase both of their works. There are works that are available. I would like to go back and share that where you can purchase this artwork. Yes. In it, I should note a couple of things. It's Small Business Saturday coming up, and you can double dip. You can feed two birds with one scone, and you can be a small business purchasing from other small business people that are for your small business. So you can really kind of keep everything in, and you can check out the page. Please do. This is the featured collection. Silva's already sold out, of course. We've got a number that are sold out,
Right.
but a number that are up there, and some really amazing art pieces. So please check it out and consider. I mean, because they get the frame themselves. It's right. It's the whole thing that you've put together. So it's not like you just get the paper, the actual paper, or whatever it is. You have the entire installation part of it that people get to enjoy. And I think we have some from past exhibits too on here still, correct?
No, this is all new.
Oh, this is just all the new stuff. Okay.
Yeah, this is all the new stuff.
Great.
There's artwork, of course, on the website, though, of course, from other website, or I'm sorry, from other exhibitions and from the portfolios of the featured artists. So
got it. Okay. Yes. Okay. So I have to ask you if you're willing to give a little bit of heads up ahead of time, but if you want to keep it under wraps, I understand. The next exhibit, can we get a little bit of a preview of what you're cooking up?
Well, I think there's a part 2 to this.
There
It's
is a
like
part
now,
2.
since the world is full of like part 2s and part 3s, so it's like, why not do the same thing? So, but this one's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be at Adrian's place, and I'm hoping to get actually a Shaolin master to talk about, Kung Fu, and he knows way more. And then also like a dancer. So like, I think those are the two things that I kind of want to correlate. Like art is about, it's mastering the arts basically. So also dance and movement is also about mastering. So maybe we'll have some performance to go along with that part 2. But, and then so another show would be, we're talking about it a little bit. It's called like migration and what it means to migrate from place to place, So there's a group of people that I kind of mentor every Monday. There's like maybe like about 10, and we kind of sit and we talk around about different subject. And, I like to hear what they're saying and what they're talking about, what they're thinking about. And then I'll kind of help produce, or I'll produce a show around that. So that's one. So those are 2 secrets that I'm giving, but the other ones I'm keeping.
Okay.
Well, and migration will be a real fun exploration of being in different places and connecting with people in different ways. It's something really shaped and further formulated by experiences in the pandemic. And so I think it'll be a very exciting show for people to check out and find some relativity in. So
Yeah, I mean, it's to kind of
early
correlate.
2022.
Yeah, to kind of correlate it with, I don't know if you guys watch Marvel movies at all, the multiverse. So it's something about that, something kind of going into like, it's not dimension, but just different worlds. So
I love it.
Something like that.
All right. Well, that's all the time that we have. Thank you, everybody, for being patient and sticking with us as we navigate some of, technology for old people like myself. Older individuals are not as good at technology. Here we go. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. This will be available online. Please tell your friends. Go to momentumcreative.org. Please check out our website. And if you can, consider donating to Momentum this holiday season. We have so many wonderful supporters. There are so many different ways to give. When we talk about these adaptive tools, you chip in $10, you chip in $25, you become a monthly donor. Those are the type of things, and those are the items that can really bolster and help people get to live their best life. And that's all about what we're doing here at Momentum. We have a wonderful staff. We shout out to the DSPs, the OTs, the PTs. We are just so grateful for everyone who considers us this holiday season for when they are looking to give back and to donate. And even at minimum, please sign up for our newsletter, and we will keep you posted about wonderful events like this. And when things get to come back in person, which is hopefully sooner than later, I hope that, but I'm done putting dates on anything because I've been so wrong on that. So I'll avoid that. But thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Rania. Keep up the great work. We do appreciate everything that you do. And until next time, we'll be back. We'll be back, folks, someday soon, very, very soon. All right. Good night.
Good night.
Good
Thank
night,
you.